Welcome to the Wellness on Purpose podcast, your go-to source for impactful, educational, and realistic information designed to propel you forward on your journey to intentional well-being, not just for today, but for the well-being of future generations. Join us as we dive into insightful conversation with industry and brand leaders in the ever-evolving landscape of the health and wellness industry. Discover the latest trends, gain valuable perspectives, and uncover practical tips to elevate your wellness journey starting today. This podcast is brought to you by Joanne's Place Health Foods, your trusted partner in health, located in the heart of Peterborough and Lindsay, Ontario. I'm your host, Marissa Laughlin, and I'm thrilled to be guiding you through this season of the Wellness on Purpose podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast and Happy New Year. I know we're at the end of January, but for me personally, professionally, and also I just think the conversation I've had with a lot of people is January is that time to adapt to making change. So it doesn't always happen right at the beginning of January or at the end of January. And hopefully people are starting to implement some changes in a positive way into their health and wellness routines. So if that's you and you're like, why did it take me 3 weeks just to start waking up with my alarm? Don't have pressure on yourself. Be patient with yourself. If there's one thing you're carrying through this year, be patient. But whatever you guys have been up to, I hope you've had a great start to the new year and you guys are ready to prioritize your health and wellness journey just as much as I am this year and really, really dive into it. I know for me, I'm going to be digging my heels in and doing some things I never thought I would be doing, like following some stricter protocols, trying new health and wellness trends, giving full reviews on those health and wellness trends, and just immersing myself in this industry even farther than I already have. So looking forward to what 2024 has in store. But I figured for the first episode this season, I wanted to have a quick little chat with you on two really big conversations that I've had with friends, family, coworkers, customers, clients, other industry leaders in the last few weeks, and just have an open-ended conversation with you here on the podcast for the first episode. So that's what you can expect. And I'm going to be talking about two big categories today, but I'm going to try to nail it down to the most important pieces because I could talk for hours. Don't worry, I'm not going to do that. But the first thing I want to talk about is the tried and true products that immersed in the wellness industry in 2023 that I think are incredible, deserve a shout out, and that I will be carrying through in my wellness journey this year. Like my top favorite products that are worth mentioning. And the second thing I want to talk about is my honest review on the Netflix's new documentary, You Are What You Eat. This is a big conversation. There are so many things to discuss, but I'm going to pick my top 3 things I liked and the top 3 things I did not like about this documentary. And it was hard to nail it down to just 3 things, but I'm going to try really hard to do that. So first, let's talk about those tried and true products that I think are worth a mention that made a significant impact on my health and wellness journey of 2023. But also, I could see that ripple effect in my clients and my friends, and my family, and my coworkers of using these products as well in 2023, again, that are worth mentioning. So first shout out I have to give is the Beekeeper's Bee Propolis Throat Spray. If you follow me on any social platform, you know this product never goes unnoticed. To be honest, this is probably one of the most used, repurchased, recommended products I have ever recommended, even beyond 2023. I feel like this product was released in 2018. It was kind of maybe reformulated a little bit or rebranded, so we didn't see it for a little bit there. But it's my absolute favorite product, and I don't go anywhere without it because it is so supportive for immune health. It's so supportive for sore throat. It's my favorite product. So if you don't know what I'm talking about and you're like, what is this amazing product that she's talking about? Let me give you some background information on the brand. So Beekeepers is a amazing company. They don't have a ton of product, which is something that I really appreciate when it comes to brands. Some brands try to dip into every single little category in the health and wellness industry. And then there are some brands that just are really tried and true to the products that they put out, and they are just so superior. So I really appreciate about beekeepers. Anyways, to the point of the product, the propolis spray. So the beekeeper's propolis throat spray, it's a daily health supporting spray that you can use for your immune system, but also for antioxidant support. But for me in particular, when I'm getting sick, which typically is led on by stress, the very first indication I get is my throat starts to get scratchy. I remember in college, I was so susceptible to strep throat. I think every single time I ever went to like a bar or out for dinner, the next morning I woke up and I was like, why do I feel like I have strep throat? So I wish this product was around back then. But when I talk about feeling under the weather or feeling that stress, so many people were like, I actually feel that irritation in the back of my throat is the first sign of not feeling well. So I'm like, okay, then you need this propolis spray because this works so quickly and so effectively. So it's a spray. You spray it directly in the back of your throat. I like to spray it on each side of the back of my throat so it really hits the tonsils back there and all of the, coverage of the throat in general at the back. And what it does is it can really soothe that soreness because the propolis attaches to those infection sites that are swelling or that have that bacteria. And propolis is known as an antibacterial support for killing off, those harmful things. So I take this product with me everywhere. I have one in my purse. I have one in my work bag. I send one with my partner. He's a paramedic, so I send that with him because he's obviously around sick people often. And it's just so easy to use. It's so affordable. It's under $20. And you can just really make a very quick impact of when you're surrounded by sick people or you feel that little bit of scratchiness or soreness in the back of your throat, even from like over talking. It's good for soothing that. But I just find like it's such a great, easy product to carry with you. It's a small, compacted container, easy to spray. It's good just for like overall general health preventatively, but can also help to really negate those progressing symptoms when you are having the sore throat and feeling under the weather. So, number one product I've used, repurchased, and rebought of 2023 and previous years was the Beekeeper's Propolis Spray. This past year, they also released a few additional propolis products, one being their propolis lozenges. 10 out of 10. I think they're so great. They have such a variety of flavors, the traditional honey ones, but they also have an elderberry. So if you do have other illnesses associated with that cold and flu, elderberry is really good for breaking the duration of your cold and flu. And then my other one I love by them is a eucalyptus lozenge. And if you're somebody who suffers with the sinus congestion, it really helps to kind of open those sinus pathways as well. They came out with cough syrup, daytime and nighttime, with a few other ingredients like chaga, melatonin, other mushrooms. I've very quickly tried them, but I don't have a full review on them because I've only used them once, but I will say that they were very supportive during that time. And because I've used many Beekeepers products, I am very much sure that they will also be a hit. So 10 out of 10. I love the brand Beekeepers. I love what they stand for. It's an all around amazing daily health support for sore throat and supporting immune, but also helping with any type of irritations in the throat. Okay, second product is more of a cosmetic product. It is the Green Beaver Natural Pudic Enamel Protecting Toothpaste. So, quick backstory. Um, as a child, I had so many cavities. All of my teeth are very, very tight. So all of my cavities were between my two teeth. Also, I didn't have the greatest diet back then compared to now. I did grow up on, the juice boxes, the, sugary Twinkies, things like that. So I did consume more sugar. So it's not surprising that I had a mouthful of cavities. Anyways, through my teenage years, I had pretty well a cavity in every single tooth, if not one, two. I had so many cavities. And then in my 20s, when I didn't have dental coverage, I stopped going to the dentist and stopped getting these checkups. Well, when I turned 30 and got benefits again, I went back to the dentist. And unfortunately, all of the teeth that I had fillings in, I had to get removed and put back in because my teeth had degraded so much where these cavities were. They did say this could potentially be like a defect from the fillings of years ago. They've changed the process in which they do them. It could be that I wasn't using a strong enough protective toothpaste. They said it was less likely diet related, more like protection that didn't happen, and like regular cleanings to make sure that that buildup didn't happen. Anyways, one of the things they asked me was, do you use a fluoride based toothpaste? And I said, no, I do not. And I haven't for probably the last 10 years. And they said, okay, we would like to see you use a fluoride toothpaste. And so I had the conversation where I didn't feel comfortable using a fluoride toothpaste all the time, but I would start to put it into my routine occasionally, but what would be the next best thing if I was looking at a natural toothpaste? And they said to me that instead of using a fluoride based toothpaste, I could get a very similar result using an enamel protecting natural toothpaste that was rich in hydroxyapatite. That ingredient in particular works very similar for protecting the teeth and helping to prevent them from degrading and getting food and things stuck in those areas that could potentially lead to cavities. So they said that it needed to be above the basic xylitol based natural toothpaste, and it had to have this specific ingredient, which is like a calcium based mineral to strengthen your tooth, and it needed to be at 4% or higher. So I said, no problem. Let me try that. So Green Beaver actually has released a line that is more custom to this ingredient at a higher dosage. So it is their Enamel Protect line, and there's a few different ones. There's kids ones, there's a whitening one, the Enamel Protect in 2 different flavors. And so for the last year, I've been using this specific one. It has to be the Enamel Protect one. When I'm reviewing this, that's the one I used for the last year. And when I went in to get my checkup, the dental hygienist was like, wow, your teeth seem very, very strong. Have you been using, they prescribed me like a higher fluoride toothpaste. And I said, actually, I haven't. I've been using this one with the 4.2% of the calcium hydroxyapatite. And she said, wonderful. Continue to use that. So discretion, you should talk to your own dentist or your own dental hygienist before making that switch. But for me, I saw the proof in the pudding of using this product for the last year. So this is definitely a product I'm going to be continuing to use into the new year. I will say it's a little bit more expensive than a traditional toothpaste, but for me, the fact of not having to use a fluoride-based toothpaste to achieve the same results, because I don't want to have the overconsumption of metals in my body and chemicals of what's coming from fluoride and fluoride toothpaste, this was the perfect swap for me, and I saw the results personally. So this will be a number 2 product that I'll be carrying through to 2024 as well. Also, I should note this is gluten-free, it's vegan, it's biodegradable, cruelty-free, non-GMO, recycled, and Green Beaver is a Canadian company, which is amazing. I don't solely use Canadian companies, but when I can, if it's available, I will try and intentionally make that choice. So I love that Green Beaver is a Canadian company and their products are made in Canada as well. So definitely pop into one of our locations to grab this while it's on sale and give it a go, and maybe check in with your dental hygienist in your next appointment and see what the results are for yourself. Okay, and the last product I want to talk about is the Harmonic Arts 5 Mushroom Chocolate Elixir Blend. I am definitely like a warm beverage girl. Doesn't matter what it is. Like, I prefer coffee. I love tea, herbal, black teas, but I also love hot chocolate. But as we know, the traditional hot chocolates have quite a bit of sugar. And although I will have that occasionally, I'm not gonna pretend like I don't, because I do. I just feel like it affects my sleep if I do have it after dinner, because the sugar content puts me on that energy boost, and then I have a terrible sleep and then I feel awful the next day. But I love the warm, creamy chocolatiness of a hot chocolate. And I will say there are a lot of hot chocolate alternatives on the market. There are a lot of good ones, but the reason I love the Harmonic Arts one in particular is it's giving me more than just that creamy, velvety, hot cocoa flavor. It's also giving me therapeutic dosages of medicinal mushrooms, which are a staple in my every single day routine. I've been taking medicinal mushrooms for the last probably 7 years, and I will continue to take them for the rest of my life. I think medicinal mushrooms have such an impact on your overall wellness, immune support, digestive health, mental clarity, your sleep. They're just really so, so great, and they adapt to how you are and how your body is functioning, which I love, which makes them suitable for pretty much everybody. Anyways, the Harmonic Arts 5 mushroom chocolate elixir blend in particular has chaga, cordyceps, lion's mane, reishi, and turkey tail. And I love this product because it's organic. They ethically source their mushrooms. They use the fruiting body of the mushrooms. They have compostable packaging. And I think they are a very, very reasonable price. They actually break it down on their website to be $1.49 per cup, which is amazing. You can't even go to like Tim Hortons and get a hot chocolate under that price. And you're just getting basically sugar in that. So very affordable, good quality, and it's really, really good. And the reason it is so good is because they actually use coconut sugar to sweeten it, not stevia, not xylitol, not monk fruit. They use coconut sugar, which I think is the closest thing to real sugar without having the impact as substantial on your blood sugar levels as sugar does. It's actually really, really great sugar alternative. And I love that that's what they sweeten it with. So it's the perfect sweetness. It's not overpowering. It's not that there's not a sweetness there. So if you don't like sweetness at all, maybe you aren't going to like it, but it's just like, it just adds to that deliciousness with the cacao powder and the mushrooms. I love it. Again, all organic, really easy to make, very affordable. And also, this is on sale for February. So if you want to get your hands on it and try it, this would be the perfect opportunity to do so and give it a go. So those are my top 3 products from 2023 that I will be carrying through to 2024. Okay, on to conversation number 2. What is my honest thoughts and reviews on the new Netflix documentary series, You Are What You Eat? There are so many things that I wrote down in my notes app of love and hate, but for the purpose of your time, I'm going to pick my top 3 things that I think are important to highlight in both the like and didn't like. What I really liked in this document series is that they talked a lot about the gut microbiome and how important it is for a diverse diet to feed the microbiome. This is not new news. We've known this for a long time, and we've been talking about this. At least we've talked about it on our Wellness on Purpose program. I talk about it with clients. We talk about it in store. That diversity of food is so important for feeding your gut microbiome. And what they have established in research is that you need 30 different plants per week to support the gut microbiome optimally. Yes, that will vary depending on your own uniqueness. However, standardized 30 different living plants is what is going to be supportive for your gut microbiome. So important that they highlighted that. However, they took it from a point that you could only get that variety by following a plant-based diet, which is not true. I am a big promoter of including plant-based foods that are living foods. So this would be your fruits, your vegetables, your legumes, your grains. Those are all very, very important. But those foods don't only fit into a plant-based diet. Those fit into every single diet. And no matter what diet you're following, you should have an emphasis on having 30 different of them per week. So that's really important. Quick pause in today's episode because I want to talk to you about a transformational online program. In case you missed it, Joanne's Place released an online program called the Wellness on Purpose Program to Educate You last year. And our intention with this program is to make this education more accessible for our community to better support their wellness journeys. This program promotes sustainable and realistic changes, and it really focuses on the foundational pillars of every single person's health: your nutrition, your sleep, your stress, and also movement. If you want to get started today, click the link in the description below to learn more about the Wellness on Purpose program. By the way, it's completely free, and you can move at your own pace from the comfort of your own home. Now let's get back to the episode. The second thing I really liked that they actually put an emphasis on in this docu-series was food accessibility. And they actually used Detroit as an example here and how the community within Detroit had struggles of getting proper food to them. And there has been a lot of crime and a lot of different things that have impacted their accessibility to food. Although they use Detroit, we need to think about the entire world. Accessibility to food is not as prevalent as it is in other areas of the world compared to North America. We have access to so much food, and I actually think that is a problem. People overconsume, people take for granted the food sources that we have. It's easy when it's so accessible, but it's very rare that I hear docu-series talk about accessibility of food, of just simply having it available. We're not even talking about the affordability of food. We're just having the conversation about having it within an area to purchase it. And what they talked about was in Detroit, where a lot of abandoned buildings are, what they did was they tore them down and they actually made their own gardens and their own vegetable crops. And they really tried to thrive within their community of what they had available to them. And they grew more foods that were supportive to their culture as well. So I love that they tied that in. Although Detroit isn't still in America, it's just interesting to see that that is still part of the conversation because it should always have been, but I don't feel like it has been best represented in previous documentaries. So I love that they talked about that. The third thing I really appreciated from this documentary is that they also talked a lot about the fishing industry. And if you've been in any health and wellness setting of like an educational conversation, this might not be new to you, but for the average individual, I do not think that people are aware of the lucrative business of the fishing industry of farmed fish versus wild caught fish. So they talk a lot about fish farms and they actually show what a fish farm is, and it is quite disgusting. It's quite alarming, and the sad thing is it's a very large industry. So there's two sides to this coin. One, because it's so gross and I would say unethical on how factory farm fishing is. It's scary, but on the same side, it's such a large industry that it employs so many people. And that is why that industry continues to grow, is because there are so many jobs in that industry. However, with that industry and overpopulating fish farms, there are other things to consider. They talk about how it's salmon in particular, they add that artificial dye to make it orange. And you've probably seen a comparison photo of farmed fish versus wild caught fish, and the colors are so significantly different. It's because they add artificial dye to the farm factory fishing products. They also talk about how they really try to fatten up certain types of fishes. And the problem with higher fat content fishes is that it is able to hold more toxins, more chemicals, more heavy metals, which then impacts the people who are consuming them. So they brought a lot of important information to consumers about farm versus wild caught fish in that industry. And I think that was a very important conversation to be had. The very last thing I want to talk about, I know I said three, but the fourth thing that was so important about this documentary is at the very end when they talked about the information and outcome of these twins. They talked about how caloric intake is so important. They compared twins that were consuming less calories because they weren't eating enough and the impact that had on weight loss and muscle gain versus a twin that ate the adequate amount of calories and the impact that had on their weight loss versus their muscle gain or loss and gain as well. So it was so refreshing to hear that under eating actually has a negative impact on reaching goals of lowering fat content and increasing muscle content. It's important to make sure you're consuming enough calories for your goals, but also for your body type, for your activity levels, also for your gender, female versus male. They do require different caloric intake as well, which is important to note. So I love that they talked about the importance of that and that so many people actually undereat, and that isn't sustainable and it isn't effective when it comes to looking at your overall fat versus muscle content in your body as well. So those were some of my favorite things about this documentary. Um, the other side, so some things that I really didn't like is one, that when they talked about the plant-based diet, they really put an emphasis on the sustainability aspect for the environment. And what they didn't talk about, and probably isn't talked about enough, well, I should say we actually talked about this on a previous episode when we talked about sustainability, but sustainability has three aspects to what makes something legitimately sustainable. And I think people's mind automatically goes to our planet when we talk about sustainability. And we think about, is this able to reduce our global warming issue? Is this able to reduce our COs that's being emitted? Is this able to help with agriculture growth? Is it sustainable for our planet? But those are not the only standards when it comes to sustainability. The other two P's in sustainability are profit. Is it profitable? Because at the end of the day, if something is not profitable, it cannot be sustained. It has to make a profit for everything to go around. And the last P is people. Is it profitable for the people that are in that industry? As I said with the fishing industry, the reason that we have such a large, lucrative fishing industry is because it employs so many people. And that happens with a lot of industries. And it's sustainable in the way of which it supports people, but the factory farming does not support planet. So it's not sustainable. However, it's not also sustainable to not have it. So there are different ways in which people are trying to grow the industry of wild caught and not have so much of the factory farmed fishing, as well as the other types of meat like cattle, chickens, eggs, things like that. There are different regulations that are being put in place to help get away from that factory type of thing to make it more sustainable for all of those things, people, profit, and planet. So I dislike that they didn't bring awareness to sustainability of those other key factors to make it sustainable. Second thing is who funded this? This is the first question you should ask when you're looking at any type of document or documentary series is who funded this. And the person and the industry who funded this was the Beyond Meat burger industry. So of course, the outlook and the outcome is going to be skewed to support their product. Okay? So put that information to use as you do. But that is what I didn't like, is it was hard to find that information, which is annoying. That should be part of like the intro and exit on a document series is who's funding it. Not just producers, but who's putting the money behind this. And that should help you decide, do you take all this information in and think it's perfectly correct? Or is this something that you should look at from both sides with different industry leaders? Another thing that really bothered me about comparing a plant-based diet to a carnivore diet is when they were talking about the carnivore diet, the types of items that they were referring to being in the carnivore diet were not actually the types of meats that would typically be promoted in a healthy lifestyle. So they were referring to bacon, deli meats, processed meats as the meats that are in that category. They weren't talking about organic chicken. They weren't talking in reference to grass-fed beef. They weren't talking about local cuts of meat. So when you don't highlight the other major components in the carnivore industry of consuming meat, it becomes a biased approach. So that bothered me. And the last thing that really, really bothered me, trust me when I say that there was a longer list of things that bothered me that actually were false than there were good things, but I'm only going to highlight the top ones, was a comment that was made close to the end of this documentary about type 2 diabetes. And it was somebody in Congress or somebody in, like, I don't know if it was like a mayor of a town that they were interviewing, but what they were saying was in New York, they had decided in cafeterias 2 days of the week to remove typical cafeteria food, and they put in a plant plant-based menu. And they claimed it was a vegan menu. And the way that they decided to word this was also in relation to type 2 diabetes. And they were saying that meat could increase the risk of children developing type 2 diabetes. They were also talking about this at a hospital standpoint as well for hospital food. But let's stick with the kids conversation because that is important. That's the future of this industry is our children and what we're carrying through for them. So for kids and the reference that they made of having these 2 vegan days, what they didn't talk about in this is that the items that they were removing from the cafeteria to put in those real wholesome plant-based foods like beans, rice, vegetables, the foods they removed were the processed foods. Those processed fake foods are the ones that, yes, could very well be contributing to type 2 diabetes. However, it's not the typical healthy diet of not eating plant-based, like eating meat. Eating meat is not what's causing type 2 diabetes. It's the type of processing of food that can be contributing to type 2 diabetes. So that bothered me because the point that they made was that they were putting these healthier options available for kids in cafeterias. Before this documentary, that should have been available. That should be available in all types of cafeteria food. Healthier options than fries and poutines and burgers and processed deep fried foods. That food shouldn't be allowed. But a diversity of plants and chicken and eggs and good quality food, that's what should be available to help prevent the increase or influx of type 2 diabetes in children. So I feel like that part was a little bit misinformation that was presented, and some people may have taken away the wrong information from them. So my consensus is this documentary didn't get it all wrong, but they got a lot of it wrong, is the consensus of it. Again, I think it's unfair when the industry of veganism and promoting Beyond Meat Burger, which I'll tell you right now in the podcast, if you are somebody who eats Beyond Meat Burger, stop. It's like one of the most highly processed fake foods. Whether you are vegan or not, don't consume it. We actually do not sell it in our store, and we won't sell it in our store because we don't stand behind that product. Anyways, sorry, that was a little side segue into another conversation of quality products. But I just don't think it's a fair representation of the industry when it's only a one-sided approach of who's funding this type of docu-series or document in the end of that. So anyways, what I will say is I think it's important to watch and to be aware of what's in conversation in the industry. Again, I think it's very eye-opening for the different types of industry and seeing what's available to you. If there's anything I can take away from this, I think it's important to stay informed and to question these things about the food that you consume, where it's coming from, whether or not it is sustainable, are there additives, what do they have to do to make this food? So all those are great questions to have, and the curiosity is important also to have. So if you have time, watch this docu-series. It was only, I think, 5 episodes, but just take it all with a grain of salt and do a little bit more research into the food that you consume on a regular basis, where it comes from, how it's made, is it local, is it organic, what are they adding to it, is it a machine that's making this food, is it grown in the ground? All those things are important to question and important to know. Anyways, that wraps up the very first episode of the Wellness on Purpose podcast for 2024. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so excited for the different industry leaders that we have planned for this next season of the podcast. It's going to be a good one. So make sure you stay tuned and check in every time a new episode is released to stay informed and to stay educated. Thank you for joining us for another insightful episode of the Wellness on Purpose podcast. We hope you found the information valuable and inspiring to support you along your wellness journey. Before we go, a quick reminder. The content shared in this podcast is for educational purposes only. While we strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information, it's important to remember that everyone's health journey is unique. We strongly recommend consulting with your healthcare professional or a qualified health practitioner for personalized advice tailored to your specific needs and circumstances. Your well-being is a priority, and speaking to a healthcare professional ensures that you receive guidance that best aligns with your individualized health goals. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes, please reach out to us through our website. That's all for now. I hope you stay well, stay informed, and remember, your health is your greatest wealth. Until next time, take care.